So it just dawned on me the other day that I am about to reach, well, as of recording this, it is May 10th, 2025. In, from what I can assume is 10 days, I'm just going based off any pictures and videos I took 10 years ago, well, almost 10 years ago. Basically, in somewhere around 10 days from the day of recording this, it will have officially been the 10th anniversary of when I finished high school. My actual graduation ceremony wasn't until a couple weeks later, around early June if I remember correctly. So my actual graduation ceremony from high school was, it's almost 10 years basically. But my last day of high school is about to be 10 years old, which that left me thinking a bit about the idea of age. Now, as someone who is Gen Z, a lot of people my age tend to go on about how whenever you look at Twitter, whenever you look at anything on the internet that reminds you of, hey, this movie or this game or this TV show is turning a year old, or it's turning 5 years old now, or this song from like 2000 whatever is like 10 years old now. Can you believe that? I know a lot of people my age like to say, holy shit, I'm getting old. I'm getting old. I am aging. I feel like Mr. Krabs in that one episode of SpongeBob where he's got the old music playing, and he lifts and he like lowers his shirt and sees his like multiple chins cuz he's old. Well, I mean, I haven't reached I don't know if I would consider myself in the old years yet. I'm still in my 20s, but it is something that really hits you in the gut when you're realizing that it's been 10 years since you finished high school. And 10 years ago, things were a lot different than they are now. It's kind of weird for me to still say that the Xbox 360 is a retro console when yours truly remembers a lot of fond memories of having used that thing. In fact, my Xbox 360 is right next to me. It still works like a charm. I may need to clean out the inside of it, because I've always cleaned out the exterior, never opened it up and cleaned out the interior. But then again, there's the X clamps, which are a bitch to remove, and that's the only thing holding me from doing that. Although I do need to repaste it probably, because I don't want my Xbox 360 to end up like my PS3 did. But that's beside the point. The point is, people my age are aging. It's a little weird to think about now at this point. There's other channels where they'll tell you where it's some dude in his 30s who's like, well, you know, I feel like I've gotten old. I've done this. I didn't feel like I was doing this or whatever back in my younger days. Or if I have advice for the younger generation, well, I guess this is one of my videos where I do that, because 10 years ago is nothing to laugh at, I guess, in this case. 10 years ago was 10 years ago. I mean, just to give you an idea of what was going on 10 years ago, if I remember correctly, around 2015, you had a combo of Messi, Luis Suarez, and Neymar at Barca. Obama was still in the White House. What else? The PS5 wasn't even a thought in most people's heads. GTA 5 was only 2 years old. I'm saying that as GTA 6 is supposed to be coming out next year, 2026. I think they said May 2026. I gotta look at that tweet again from Rockstar. But yeah, GTA 5 was almost 2 years old at that time. It hadn't even reached its second anniversary yet. I mean, something like Overwatch wasn't even out yet. Fortnite wasn't even a thought in most people's heads yet at the time. Like Call of Duty, like the whole concept of massive, always online live service games was just in its infancy. Like there was like really bare bones shit coming out. The Disney Star Wars films hadn't fully reached their infamy yet. It was long ago now when I think about it. It doesn't feel like it was long ago, but I don't know if that's just the whole concept of time flies by. It's gonna be wild once I reach my middle-aged years, and then I'm like looking back on these events somewhere in the future. But I guess my main point with making this video, and I did mention this before, so I'm repeating myself, I guess, but I think the main thing I wanna give with this video is the idea of, don't take youth for granted. Because, like I said before, I'm aware that there may be some people watching this who are probably still in high school, and they may not be taking these years that seriously. You may just be taking it for granted. Shit just comes at you. I know the academic work can be a bitch, depending on what subject it is. I know for me it was math back in the day. I'm still ass at math. I was not blessed with a fantastic math ability. I was blessed with a fantastic ability to know history and English, even though I stutter a lot when I talk. A lot of people, from what I remember hearing, the people who you least expect to be good at certain things might actually be good at certain things. I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I'm just saying, if you're someone who doesn't give off the appearance that you're good at one specific thing, trust me, you may actually be good at that thing. There's always like a hidden talent, like a dark horse sort of individual. But in the case of your high school years, since mine are almost 10 years ago, I would definitely say enjoy those years while you're still in the middle of them, because once you're done with high school, it's really a rather strange feeling when you realize that you are essentially now an adult, at least in the eyes of the law, in the eyes of the government, at least here in the United States. And a lot of your decisions are based around what you decide to do. Now, you may go into college, which is basically, from my personal experience, college is just basically high school 2.0. I mean, it also depends on what college you go to, but I'm assuming for most colleges, even the most prestigious of colleges here in the United States, it's probably high school 2.0. If you get what I mean when I say that, then you definitely know what I'm talking about with college being high school 2.0. But high school 1.0, your main high school, don't take those years for granted. I always ask myself, why on earth do the Japanese always use high school as the setting for most animes? And I remember reading once someone posted that for a lot of anime writers and manga artists and all that, high school years were like their last years of truly being free when you think about it. Now, granted, when you are underage, obviously you are under the authority of whoever your parents are or whoever your guardians are, and then once you turn 18, you're basically a free man in the eyes of the law, or a free woman. But the thing is that when you're still in high school, you don't know it yet, but you still have some kind of freedom and some kind of liberty that you probably won't be able to experience again. Maybe you might get an extra 3 to 4 years, 3 to 5 years if you go to college, and depending on how you were brought up and how your family is with you, and in terms of what kind of scholarships you got if you went to college, or if you went into a trade or something like that. But I have seen people I went to high school with who nowadays it's really weird for me to look at their Facebook profiles, because I have a lot of them on Facebook, because I feel like Facebook is just a place where you reconnect with people that you used to go to high school. I see people I went to high school with kids and a steady career in something that has nothing to do with what they always wanted to go to when they were in high school, or they have their own home, and they have they have their own fancy car or whatever shit that they've got. They're basically living like what people like me used to think 10 years ago. It's like, man, that's how our parents are living. That's how the adults we see are living. That's how our teachers are living. It's kind of freaky when 10 years later, people like me are essentially living like that. Maybe with some differences. Some of us may still be living at home with our parents, or some of us may be riding in a used car, or some of us might be working a dead-end job in something like retail or something. It really depends on who you are and what your life circumstances have brought you to in this day and age. But basically, if you're still in between the ages of 14 to 17 and you're watching this video, I want to say, don't take these young years for granted that you're in high school. I sound like an old fucker saying that, but honestly, I now get why old fuckers say that. Because when you are young, you don't have to worry about a lot of responsibilities. You don't have to feel that stress of being old, of being an adult, of feeling that basically, oh shit, I'm wasting my years away. Now that I have no schooling to do, I don't have any high school, I'm not required to go to school anymore, and I don't have to go to college anymore. And in the case of someone like me, if you did go to college, now these later years, you're just like, the fuck do I do? And you're just going job to job maybe, or you're still at the same dead-end job, and now you're asking yourself when you come back home, well, crap, what do I do with myself? I don't know what I want to do. And that's still a question someone my age is still asking themselves. Even though I got a college degree that stares at me when I look up, because my diploma is right above my desk. It's hanged up in a nice little frame, and every time I look up from my desk, actually as I'm currently staring at it right now, it's that little reminder of like, I am proud of the fact that I have this thing, but at the same time, it's been almost 6 years since I finished college, and it's really weird to think that it's like a really strange feeling. It's like a feeling of emptiness that you get. So again, I can understand why Japanese manga writers and anime writers always pick high school as their preferred time period to set most of their works in, or most of their their works in. Even if it's not in a high school setting, it's high school aged characters. Very rarely do you find something that's like actual adult characters, or somebody that's like in college or something. Because high school, for a lot of people over there, from what I got, seems to have been like the nicest, freest time period for them, where you establish your relationships with people that you probably may or may not still be talking to. I mean, hell, I'm still talking to some of the people I went to high school with. Malik and Jimmy, for example. The friends of mine who I speak to constantly in a lot of my streams, if you've been following up with those, or in my Halo vid series, or even my friend Zach. A lot of these people I've known since high school, some of which I've known as far back as middle school, like in the case of Malik, or in the case of my friend Khalil. All of these friends of mine I've known, like some of my friends I've known since middle school, but then there's other friends of mine like Jimmy and Zach who I've known since high school. So it's one of those things where you're left thinking to yourself that like your high school years really are your big development years. Some people may I know I've heard from some adults back when I was younger that, oh, you're gonna forget your high school friends, and once you go to college, you're only gonna go with just your college acquaintances and your colleagues and all that. I don't know about that, because a lot of the people I went to college with, I barely even talked to them. Maybe one or two people I went to college with I still talk to, but most of the people I went to college with, I don't talk to. I mean, granted, in my case, I was going to college out of state. But what I want to say about your high school years, for you youngins watching this, is that they're really nice years. Despite the fact that you may have a crappy teacher, or you may have a crappy class that you're going to absolutely hate, and you may encounter, an asshole at your school, like a bully or something like that. But if you have friends, you may have one or two friends, or you may have, in my case, like your own little mini clique of friends, which is basically me and like 3 or 4 friends of mine that joined forces, and we had our own little portion of campus that we ate lunch at and spoke about our daily lives and shit at. You may have something like that, maybe. Obviously that's not a guarantee for everyone, but the reason why I say that you don't want to take these years for granted is because when you're older and you're working, social time is really limited. For a lot of us, when you're on something like Discord, this is probably the social time that you're going to have outside of work. Because sometimes, once you're done with work, if you're working in an office setting, or if you're working outside of home, if you're dealing with something like customer service and you're seeing people constantly, I know this was the case for me, that doesn't really count much as a social interaction. Yeah, you're talking to somebody, but you're not actually getting to know this person. Your whole relationship with the people that you deal with on a daily basis is transactional. Now, in my case, I work from home, so in terms of social interaction, my social interaction with people is basically through a monitor and a headset, because I work in customer service. So, I mean, technically you are socializing, but it's really all transactional. It's all business related. You're not actually meeting people that you're going to establish relationships with. Once you get off of work, your day is basically, you're pretty tired from what you do. So you don't want to do anything else. Maybe you want to hop on your computer or just plop your ass on a couch and watch TV for the rest of the day, because that's one of the nice things about when you get old. And then going to sleep, because sleep is one of those things that you're gonna really miss once you get older. Some people might say, well, it depends on how you structure your schedule. Well, let's be honest. If you're an adult, structuring your schedule, you got work. You work 8 hours. Then once you're off work, if you're someone like me, you want to fit in like a workout or something because you want to take care of yourself. You don't want to be a fat ass, because I used to be a fat ass back in my high school years, at least my freshman and sophomore years. You don't want to be like that. So you want to maintain your slim figure. I may not be as slim as I was in college because I'm not moving as much as I used to, but I try to keep myself in a healthy weight. Now, I don't want to end up like Lizzo or something like that. So, you got to put in a workout. Once you put in your workout, you got to eat. And then after you eat, you maybe have like 2 to 3 hours to find something to distract your mind with, whether it's television, whether it's reading or playing video games, something like that. When you're in high school, and I know this was the case for me, time flew by, but it was really weird because you would finish high school. In my case, it was like at around 2 p.m. in the afternoon. After that, maybe when I was losing weight, when I was in my high school years, I would try and fit in my workout. And then after my workout, I would come back home, relax a bit, eat dinner, and then just browse. I wasn't playing a lot of video games during the week. I always had like this really strict schedule to myself where I wouldn't game during the week. I would game on Fridays and Saturdays primarily. Weekdays, I would usually just watch videos or TV or sometimes even read. I did read a lot of shit back, and I still read a lot of shit. Mostly shit I find on the internet. But when you're older, it really feels like your schedule feels more, I wouldn't say structured, but it feels more like it's limited. I don't know why. And I don't know if a lot of people the same age as me are getting this feeling now that we're almost approaching our 30s. That your schedule feels really limited. Even if you feel like you have a lot of time on your hands, even if you do have a lot of time on your hands, it feels really limited compared to when you were in school. When you were in school, you would get off, and then that was it. Maybe you may have had a part-time job working at like a grocery store or a restaurant or something, like a fast food place. But even then, your hours didn't feel like they were like severely limited. Like they were like oh shit, I gotta get some of this in, and I gotta get some of this in before the day's over, else I feel like I did absolutely nothing. It's one of the things that really hits you once you get into your later years in life. And honestly, when I was in high school, I did not feel like that. It just felt like things felt slow, but they felt like they weren't gonna end. And I don't know if for a lot of young people these days that's still the case, where it feels like your high school days are never gonna end. Well, unfortunately, I hate to break it to you, but they will end. And I guess that's why, like I mentioned before, a lot of anime and manga writers tend to pick high school as the setting for most things. Because for a lot of those writers, those may have been their nicest and happiest years, where they could write all these kinds of stories and all that. And while in my case, high school was kind of a mixed bag. My freshman year was kind of dookie, but my senior year was the best. I will still regard my senior year of high school as my best year of high school ever. I think it was the only time I've ever was excited to get up for school in the morning. My senior year. And that's not just because I knew that the end was approaching, but it was just the fact that I had lunch with all my friends at once, because in my high school's case, we had divided lunches. I had lunch with all of my friends in one at the same time. We were just chilling. It was my classes were not like completely a pain in the ass. It was just the chillest year of school I ever recall in my life. And maybe that might be the case for some of y'all. And maybe that might not be the case for some of y'all. But I will say, if you think high school is bad, it is not bad. Once you get past high school, and you're in that void of unknown, if you haven't set something up during that unknown void, even if you've done your higher education, or you've done your trade or something, though that void of time after high school until you die feels really weird. And once you've gone past a couple years of it, and you've reached the 10th anniversary of your graduation, or the last day of high school, like in my case now, it's strange to look back on it. Do I have regrets about anything during my years of high school? I mean, yeah, and I'm sure a lot of young people who watch this will probably have the same exact results. Maybe. I mean, I hope that you don't have regrets, but we're human. We're all human, and we have regrets at some point. We have regrets as to how we could have done things differently during those 10 years ago. For example, if I had started, because when I started high school, I was pretty fat, I'm not gonna lie. I didn't start losing weight until my junior year. And then by the time I was finally at a weight that I was actually happy with, I was already at high school. I was in my gap year before I started college. So, in that case, do I feel that high school may have been different for me had I decided to, get my shit together earlier on and lose weight? Well, maybe. But then again, my motivation to lose weight was a teacher I had in high school. I had one specific teacher, ironically enough, in a subject that I did not like, which was algebra. But my teacher for that class was probably the biggest inspiration and motivation for me to lose weight. Because that man made weight loss look exciting. Which was, for a fat ass like me back in the day, I didn't think exercising and actually, being healthy was exciting. But that man made it look exciting. And to that teacher, I have to thank that man to this day. Because if it weren't for that man, I'd probably still be a fat fuck. But, no, I do regret thinking about what would have happened had I decided to pursue weight loss earlier than that. Or, for example, do I have regrets about some of the friends that I lost during my high school years? I mean, not really that much, because some of the people I lost friendships with in high school were not really pleasant individuals, and to my knowledge of those individuals these days, they're not doing amazing right now, so I don't really regret that. In terms of establishing relationships with the opposite sex, oh yeah, I definitely have regrets in that department. And I know a lot of people, a lot of young people, once you get older, you will definitely have a regret in regards to that. If you've ever watched a romance story, in my case, I've seen one particular anime that it was a romance anime that was it's really weird when you watch some of these things and they hit close to your gut, and they bring you back to that time period long ago, and you're like, damn, I really do have regrets. I should have asked that one girl out years ago, or I should have probably made my move years ago. Obviously, nowadays that I'm old, I don't know what's become of any of these girls I used to be into back in high school. I don't even know if they still live in my area. Because I still live in the same area, well, not as close to my high school, but I still live within, the same city as where my high school is located. So, I'm still technically a local in the same area. But a lot of the people I went to high school with may not be in this area. In fact, I know some people, unfortunately, that I went to high school with that are not even with us anymore on this earth, and that also kind of hits you hard. Because some people that I know have passed over these past 10 years, I've known some of them personally, and it's a little strange to think that people that I genuinely knew who were the same age as me are not on this earth anymore, and that it's really weird to think that, because obviously death is one of those things that's not easy to handle depending on who it is. Now, a lot of these people that have passed, I didn't know them on a deep level, but I did know them as acquaintances and classmates of mine. I went to high school with them, and some of these people were at my own graduation, my own high school graduation. So knowing that some of these kids back in the day, because I was a kid back at the same time as them, who are the same age as me nowadays, are not with us anymore because they passed on. It's one of those weird things that still hits hard as you've gotten older over the years. Along with, obviously, this one obviously is not as tragic, but the people that you went to school with who now have kids and families of their own, and they're like established adults like their parents were. And a lot of us back in our high school days probably didn't think that some of us would end up in those positions in life, but as is life itself, as is the nature of life, if you're religious, as is intended by your creator or your God or whatever, shit happens over the years. But in terms of looking back on those years, I would say a lot of people my age now, looking back 10 years ago, if you graduated from high school in 2015, you may have a regret or two. In my case, I have a couple of regrets. Do I think things would have been different if I done them a different way? Yeah. Do I look back at some of my high school years fondly? I do, my senior year in particular. You know, and a lot of the, when I had my first smartphone was in my junior year of high school, an iPhone 5, if I remember correctly. I actually still have that iPhone sitting on my shelf as like a memento of like my olden years. Hopefully the battery on that thing doesn't explode. I don't think it will. But I keep it there as a souvenir, as a reminder of my younger years. A lot of the videos and pics I took between 2014 and 2015 are still saved on my hard drive. And whenever I see those images of my younger self and my friends, and some of the friends who I stream with regularly, and seeing them in their younger forms, it's really weird. I kind of understand now how the elderly feel when they look back on their younger years, and some elderly might cry when they look back at their younger years, depending on how your younger years were compared to your older years. But in my case, like, I wouldn't say I would cry, but it's really more like it's like a weird feeling in your chest, like a feeling of these were the olden days. There was a lot of good moments, there was some bad moments, but compared to your adult life, honestly, what I trade to experience one day of that time period again? Possibly, just to see, what it was I'd forgotten about so long ago. But unfortunately, that was a bygone era. Things were different, social norms were different, our culture was different back then. What we were into was different. I mean, if I could go back in time and have a discussion with my 17-year-old self as 27-year-old me, I'm pretty sure 17-year-old me would be surprised by a lot of things that older me did. I mean, he wouldn't be surprised that I finished college, but he would definitely be surprised that I'm not working in anything relating to the fields that I studied in college. But he would probably also be surprised about the fact that I did slightly gain a tiny bit of weight. I guess I have like what is considered a dad bod in this day and age. I mean, I'm almost 30, so I'm not really surprised that I look like that now. But I think younger me would have probably been surprised about the acquired taste of anime over the last couple of years, because if you're my age, you remember in high school being into anime was not highly well regarded by most people our age. There was a clique of people who were into it on your local high school campus, but the average high schooler back in those days, we would look at it like, oh god, it's one of those weirdos. And now 10 years later, I guess I can now say I'm one of those weirdos. But obviously not handling being into something like that as an adult. It's a lot different compared to being into something like that when you're younger. I guess I now understand the whole Japanese concept of chunibyo or illusions of grandeur, as Han Solo once said it in Star Wars. The whole idea of when you're younger and you get into this thing, a specific thing that you're really into, you really put this thing up on a pedestal. And you view yourself as this, this thing is, your whole life centers around this specific thing that you just experienced. In my case, it was, I was a history nerd back in the day, so a lot of the historical junk I was reading, obviously, like, my interests were revolved around that. A lot of, like, military junk and all that back when I was younger. I could definitely say, like, when you see one of those animes like Chunibyo, for example, it's really weird when you look at weird characters like those and you think to yourself as an adult, it's like, Jesus Christ, what a retarded kid. And then you pause for a minute, and then you're like, oh right, I probably was that retarded kid like 10 to 15 years ago. And then you're like, oh man, then it hits home. Then it hits. And then you're like, man, those are one of those moments of your younger years where you're like a little embarrassed about, but to be fair, that is what happens when you're younger. Obviously, as an adult, you're not like that anymore. So, but you can look back on it. Sometimes you look on it fondly, sometimes you have a good chuckle about it, sometimes you cringe about it, and sometimes you have a combination of all these emotions at once. But would I say it was a bad time? No. Do I miss those years? In a sense, I do. And like I said before, do I have regrets about what I could and couldn't have done and what I should have done back in those younger years? Of course. I have regrets. I always have regrets about what I've done in the past. And most people do. But now that it's dawned on me that it's been almost a decade since I finished high school, that dawns on you a lot harder now. And your older self is like, damn, you pull a cold one, you crack it open, you sip from it, and you reflect. Because that's really what you do in your adult years. And I can genuinely say now, after saying all that I've said for these past like half hour, or I think almost a half hour, depending on how long this video is once I edit this, but I can genuinely say now, looking back on all this, that I can kind of understand how old fuckers feel. And once you reach that point, I don't know if I could officially say that I've become an adult. I don't know if I feel mature. I mean, I'm mature in terms of age. I don't know if I feel mature in terms of my mental ability, my mental capacity, or my psychological state. I don't know if that's just me, doubting myself or second guessing myself. And I guess me reflecting on all this is probably a sign of maturity. And I think I've reached that point now. But I guess now being able to understand older generations as no longer being considered the young whippersnappers, because the young whippersnappers are Gen Alpha these days. Gen Z, we're now considered the old farts. Well, not the old farts. We're considered the older, the young but still old farts. Because millennials are now getting into that old fart range, because now they're reaching their 40s. We're almost reaching our 30s. So once you reach this point and you start understanding older crowds more, now it's kind of dawned on you that I don't know if this is what maturing essentially is, but if this is what it is, well, like the Buddha reaching enlightenment, like the Buddha obtaining enlightenment, I guess that's what this is. When you're a Gen Z and you've reached and you've matured, you officially can declare now that you have officially matured as a human being. I guess this is that point. This is that 0 point, that ground zero, that pinnacle, the peak of your life, or the climax of your life experiences, or once you've reached that epiphany moment, once you've had an epiphany. I guess this is that point. And to the younger people watching, to sum things up, don't take your high school years for granted. Enjoy these years, because once you get into your adult years, you're gonna have some moments, especially in your younger 20s, where you wish you were experiencing those years. Maybe you might not be like that in your younger 20s. Scratch that. Your older 20s. Once you reach your older 20s, you're gonna reach that point where you're gonna definitely miss those years. And the only way that you'll ever go back to those years is in your dreams, or watching footage, if you recorded any footage of your high school years. I'm assuming nowadays it's a lot easier to record that footage. Back when I was in high school, I was using a flip phone during my first 2 years of high school. And then my second 2 years, I had my first smartphone, which was an iPhone 5, so I was actually able to record a bunch of that footage and take pictures. Always take pictures, take videos of whatever you can. Save it onto your hard drive or whatever SD card or whatever you have, because once you get older, you can look back on those images and those videos and remember of different times. I guess for some people it may be happier times, which I guess that's a depressing note to leave things on. But for some people it may be happy times, some people it may be depressing times, maybe depressing times now or happy times now, it really depends. But you can look back on those years like a how would I put it? Like a memories book. To put it one way. You can look back on those years. I know I do every now and then. So yeah, you're definitely gonna feel like that once you reach your late 20s. And you'll probably feel like that again somewhere a couple years on down the road when you start reflecting on stuff like that, or something triggers something in your brain to make you reflect on that time period. But don't take those years for granted, because at some point in your life you're gonna miss them once you get into adult age. And it's gonna be rough once you start reflecting on that, because then comes things like depression or anxiety. And that's not fun. But to those of us who have experienced any of those things, if you're able to trudge through them and persevere, then I may not be religious myself, but God bless you, because I've trudged those myself. It's not pleasant, but we've all done it at some point, so I guess God bless us all in some way, if you're religious or whatever. I don't know what I'm getting at now at this point. This video's gone on for a while, but yeah, that's me reflecting on the almost 10 years since I graduated high school, and me reflecting on all this. I guess I'll come back to y'all once I reach the 10th anniversary of my college year, of my college graduation. Until then, thank y'all for watching, and peace.